Hello, everyone. This is Monday evening, Project True, and I have my wonderful guest with me, Sarah. Okay, your middle name does that is that pronounced as Yale or
Um, it's my so my this is kind of like my chosen name. My actual like legal
Mm,
name is Heather Marie Dunn, but I go by Sarah. I'm kind of like going by either Yael or Ariel's a middle
mm,
name. Basically, that's a Hebrew name. I'm converting to Judaism, so
right, right,
I
okay,
decided like to just generally go by what will be my Hebrew name in the Jewish community.
right, right, right. So it's Sarah Yael Dunn.
Uh,
Am
yes.
I pronouncing it? Okay. Great. Okay. So yeah, thank you, Sarah, for joining us. And actually, so that everyone knows, like we have been having very lively discussion already behind the scene. And actually, okay, this is actually not a smiling matter, but Sarah actually informed me just now, right before we started, that the Supreme Court officially has voted to strike down Roe v. Wade, which is wow. What a what a news to have right before the show. So we definitely gonna get into something very much related to that, I think. But anyhow, I just say this every time that I open this show. So Project True came out of my personal struggle and dilemma about okay, not so much of a dilemma, I guess, struggle. Um, Starting on hormones and starting transition at age 50, and learning about what transgender non-binary community faces in terms of, I mean, a lot of things, but the our poverty rates, discrimination that we face, all these difficulties, and how I started to engage myself in this question that how do I combat that personally, but how can I be of service to the community, to improve things and to change the world a little bit, even a little bit while I'm here. So Project True is a show specifically focused on transgender and non-binary folks. For a show for transgender and non-binary folks to take up space and make our voices heard, because we are individuals and not the category. So I'm just really excited, Sarah, today to have you here, and I just really want to thank you, so that everyone knows that I really thank you for offering to talk about this not so easy subject. So
Okay, well, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on this program. I want to thank my new partner Noah for connecting us and connecting me to this program, and I look forward to having this needed, hard but needed discussion.
yeah, yeah, definitely. He's watching. Hello, Noah.
Yeah.
I noticed him in the chat.
Hey, honey.
Okay, so yes, dating and relationships. So as I said, I started my transition in July of last year, and I came out as trans in December of 2020. So it's like new to me, and also I kind of I'm just gonna share something personal first. I stopped dating 8 years ago or so. I can't be really exact, but I stopped dating. Um, Basically because if I delve into it, basically because I really kind of got sick of being in a relationship where the other person does not see me as who I am, and I just didn't need that in my life. I had lots of other things going on, and I was like, okay, this is it. So I've been single and celibate for last 8 years or so, and pretty happy about that. And having said that, I think dating relationships, this is very, very, very important things to um talk about and deal with, because it's just part of being human. So yeah. So I just want to actually, Sarah, not to like put you on the spot, but I know this is like really, there's a lot to unpack here, but I'm just gonna, let you decide, like, what we like first, what we talk about in the
Okay.
show.
So I kind of wanted to give a brief background of
Mm.
when it comes like gender and sexuality. So I in high school, I will be 40 in a few weeks. So yeah, getting close to middle age. uh,
Don't say that.
well, um,
Okay. Yep.
yeah, my body's trying to wants to tell me that I'm older than what I really am, but I keep saying no. I'm only 40. I'm not 60. Um,
Right.
but in high school, my junior year of high school, I came out as bisexual.
Mm.
I knew from from early childhood something was different, but in the 90s, I never knew what transgender was. The
Mm.
only
Mm.
images I saw of what was then would have been transgender was all very negative. Like on the Jerry Springer show, they would show trans people, whether trans women or trans men, is that we were deceiving straight people into going to bed with us. So we were either, predatory gay men preying on innocent straight men, or predatory lesbians and preying on innocent straight women.
Mm.
And it was just like, oh my gosh, that's not me. I don't want to be that. That looks so
Mm.
yucky and trashy.
Mm.
Like that's
Mm.
not me. And so I was out in high school as bisexual, and even in a progressive college town in Urbana, Illinois, that was very difficult. It was right around the time of the Matthew Shepard murder. So,
Yeah.
and as someone who at that time was outwardly male,
Mm.
even being outwardly, even the hint that I would be attracted to men was very dangerous.
Mm. Mm.
So even in a very well-known like progressive college town, so I was somewhat out, but I was involved at that time with back then it just was newly LGBT. The
Mm.
B and the T just was added.
Right. Right.
Um, so I was in their youth group for basically mostly high school students, and they're
Mm.
mostly gay boys in there. And the kind of like adults chaperones was a lesbian couple who I became very close to, almost like became like informally adopted by.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and there was one time where like things were just really rough at home, so they agreed to like take me in,
Mm.
and they kind of like just they're very good parental figures.
Mm.
However, I learned a lot about the lesbian and gay community, and then I started learning. They took me to see when the movie Boys Don't Cry came out. They wanted to teach me about transgender, and I had no clue. The only image I saw of trans
Mm.
people, I thought, oh, dude, those are like the back then. It was the term was transvestites,
Right.
or drag queens or drag kings.
Mm.
That
Mm.
that's what transgender was.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I saw the movie Boys Don't Cry, and I was like, okay,
Mhm.
in a different sense, like that's me. And So I was very innocent and naive, I was like 19 years old, very
Mm-hmm.
young and just I was very trusting, So my lesbian kind of like my lesbian, unofficial foster parents are like the first people I tried to come out to 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They were very they rejected me outright.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. God.
Cut off I ended up having to move out of their house and they cut off all contact with me and I was just so shocked
Oh
because
wow.
wait a minute. You had no problem with me being a bisexual teenage boy.
Mm-hmm.
You were celebrating that with me, but then when I say no, that I'm actually maybe I'm a bisexual girl,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's a problem. And I had no idea what the history of like turfs or
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing, but all I just remembered was just the hostility. And I was like,
Wow.
before I come out, it's like you guys were loving, you guys were literally like chosen parents, like chosen family to me. And then seconds later,
Mm-hmm.
I'm nobody to you. So it really I ended up going back into the closet fully
Oh
for
God.
15 years.
Oh wow. I'm sorry.
And I
Wow.
really, at that time, mental health was not a big thing. So I kind of like bottled up a lot of stuff inside and I just held there was a lot of resentment. And, I'm openly admitting, became kind of very outwardly homophobic and transphobic. And it wasn't because like I wasn't educated. It was just like I had a lot of this trauma that, you know, was in there, and I just was like, well, my attitude was like, how could the lesbian and gay community want, the straight community to accept us and give us equal rights,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but then they don't want to accept each other and give each other the same treatment. And I was like, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so for 15 years, I suppressed who I was, my womanhood, my sexuality. I developed a lot of toxically masculine ideas. I got involved in a very conservative Christian group that, it was easy to suppress everything. I actually got married. 2017, I actually got married to a straight cisgender woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was actually marriage. Was then this is when Caitlyn Jenner comes out, and then the trans community really comes into the surface, and then I'm starting to have dysphoria again. I was just like, well, wait a minute. For so
Mm-hmm.
long, this has been working, like suppressing
Mm-hmm.
everything, but now marriage is where I'm supposed to be, the man, the man of the house, and
Right. Right.
these traditional patriarchal roles, and I just like
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost interest like in sex with my ex-wife, and we ended up separating over it because she thought I was cheating on her, but I was like depressed and anxious. And finally, after 15 years like in marriage counseling, I came out again and I was like, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily for me, she was very accepting and affirming. However,
Mm-hmm.
she is a strictly straight heterosexual person, and she was like, I love you. Right now, I am attracted to you.
Mm-hmm.
However, once they start transitioning,
Mm-hmm.
that physical and romantic attraction is going to dissipate till it's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she was like, we both agreed because we loved each other that much, we wanted us to both be happy, but we were like, for us
Mm-hmm.
to be together, one of us has to be miserable so the other one can be happy. I was like, that's not good for either of us. So
Right.
we mutually and painfully agreed to end the marriage.
Mhm. Mhm.
And bless it, we encourage each other to find, someone who could provide the love that we could give them.
Mhm.
So happy she was able to find her new husband, and she now has a family, and I'm
Mhm.
very happy for her. And
That's great.
however, for me, living in a good chunk of my life outwardly as a heterosexual man,
Mhm.
and then when I come out as trans, I mean, basically for 2 years, I didn't focus on my sexual who I was attracted to because
Mhm.
I just was like, I gotta heal. I gotta heal from this divorce because, and at that time, I was not interested,
Mhm. Mhm.
in, and regardless of gender or anything, like I wasn't interested in dating like for 2 years and
Mhm.
focused on transitioning and stuff. And so, 2 years into transitioning, I was like, okay, I found that in my community at the time, there was a group called Lesbians of Iowa.
Mhm. Mhm.
They said that they were inclusive of all trans people.
Mhm.
And so I kind of like reluctantly and hesitantly joined them. And I was like, okay, but I don't trust you.
Mhm.
I'm just waiting for and I would say for the most part, the Lesbians of Iowa group have been wonderful.
Mhm. That's great.
There has been some issues,
Mhm.
but I've I've had very very good experiences. I've developed very good platonic friend close friendships. People like of all genders, who have like been there for me, in like
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
darkest hours. And I'd say overall, it's a very wonderful, close knit community because we're in Iowa and the broader LGBTQ community is not that large here. So
Mhm.
it's like we're
Mhm.
kind of a little bit more have to look out for each other.
Right. 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 Yeah.
So, um, but when I started exploring like dating wise, like I knew because in trans support groups, like the whole issue of like
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
genital preference issue was going to come up because
Right.
we talked about that particularly with we had a lot of heterosexual trans women who were
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
rejection from straight men.
Mhm. Right. Right.
So, and there were a few trans lesbians, and there were some straight trans men who were saying, "Yeah, just be prepared for that." And so I was like, I've always was like, okay, I do believe, in people have the right to their own bodily autonomy, and so I think that's universal.
Mhm.
So, however, one thing I have noticed is that, like personally, so I have had a couple dating relationships with two lesbians. One was a butch woman,
Mhm.
and the other one was a femme woman. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
the genital issue did not come up at all.
Mhm.
They were okay with it. I mean, I was more of a nervous wreck about it than they were.
Right.
Um, but what I have found is that that issue has become used as kind of like as a weapon and a
Mhm.
distraction
Mhm. Mhm.
in order to avoid accountability for transphobia within the lesbian community.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so we actually, during the height of the pandemic, when everything was shut down, a lot of like in the Lesbians of Iowa group, a lot of stuff was like online because we're all sheltering in place because of COVID.
Right.
And so late summer of 2020, we had a thing called Trans Tuesdays, and
Mhm.
this one of the leaders of the group posted an article. It's written by a butch lesbian who is talking about her now marriage to a trans woman who she was in love with, and how it was talking about her journey about being totally turned off to now being meeting like the love of her life, and how it challenged her to examine her own prejudices and worldview that she had, and it was a very well written article. However, it sparked this huge fight within the community, and you were getting like these lesbians who, it was just like a handful, but they didn't even bother reading it. All they ever wanted to talk about was like their preferences, and it's like the same mantra: trans women, are always pressuring us to sleep with them, and always like quote unquote throwing their girl dick in our faces, and I'm like, where is this coming? Like, I'm like, I've never done that. Like, a lot of the trans lesbians that I know are so timid and so scared. It's like if they're attracted to. I mean, I think for me it was like easier for femme to approach like femme women, because I think as growing up in a straight world, that's like we were socialized. That's what we were socialized as. That's what is acceptable. For all intents purposes, living as a straight male, like that's what was what was normalized, and we weren't taught that that being more of a masculine of center woman was okay. And so I started confronting that, and I'm just like, okay, wait a minute, like this doesn't have to be an all or nothing, but it's just the comments were so extreme, and it just got so much that a lot of the trans community and even some trans men were just getting so offended, comfortable about this. Like we can like went off and had our own like debriefing discussion, just like pretty much all the trans people, the lesbian group, we were just saying, okay, we were trying to process everything, because a lot of those comments were just very hurtful and even very traumatizing. It was just painting trans women like we were these sexual predators. And I've always been someone who's like trying to be very conciliatory. And there's one woman particularly I was trying to talk with and reason with, and she was saying that how she, has like trauma from like childhood sexual abuse. And so, content warning, we'll be mentioning my own briefly about history briefly of my own childhood trauma. So I'll give like a few seconds for people to step away. Okay. So I shared my own trauma of being sexually violated by a cisgender straight man at the age of 8. This woman said, well, that's different because you don't have a vagina.
Oh my God.
And at that point, I was like, I'm not getting anywhere further, because you just totally delegitimized and erased my own trauma. Like, I'm not here to say that your trauma is not valid or less valid than mine. Like, I was just here to say that I know what it's like. It might have been different situations, but it's no less traumatizing. It's like we're still children, no matter what genitals. It's
right.
Sexual abuse is sexual abuse, And so I just started seeing that there was this stigma in the lesbian community. And I'm not saying that every single lesbian has this stigma, because I know there are a lot. A lot of dear friends who do not hold those views. 2 weeks, I'm gonna be at their wedding. They're like my best friends. I'm going to their wedding, and but that affected me so much. And then later I started, because I'm totally new to, the lesbian culture. I was getting introduced to like butch and femme, because living in the heterosexual world, that was totally foreign. And when I'm hearing like, oh well, when I was told, it was like, oh well, you're not butch enough, and I'm like, what's butch? Um, I'm like, I thought butch. I know butch wasn't it? It sounds like a biker, a biker nickname.
Right, 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 right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Um, or you're not I was even told I wasn't feminine enough, and I was like, that one really caused like more dysphoria, because I'm just like, okay, but it wasn't just like gentle, it was like very hostile. And I was like, what's this whole butch femme binary, like?
Right.
And when I would question it, it was like, how dare you question our dynamic? And I was like, but it was just, I wanted to know what was going on, because, even as an adult, like I was trying to fit in, it wasn't just like trying to find a partner. And I think that got misinterpreted. So I was like even questioning, it was like, well, should I butch up more? Because I know a lot of trans women have said that they felt that they were like more socially accepted in the lesbian community if they like, look more masculine. But I am just like, I actually did have like a lot longer hair. I mean, naturally, I'm not really I put on makeup every now and then. Like, it's really not my thing. I mean, I'm kind of more androgynous, or like kind of soft butchy, just
Right, right, right. Yeah.
I have some feminine qualities. I have some masculine qualities. It's, um, and so even as an adult, I was desperately trying to fit in like with the lesbian culture, but it was always interpreted like, particularly by some femme lesbian women, I was like, oh, you're just trying to get me to go to bed with you. And I was like, no.
Wow.
And last year, actually, it was the fall of 2020, I met this lesbian woman from Michigan, and we really hit it off. And I was under the impression that, okay, finally someone is like accepts me for me. Like I was able to open up to her about all these struggles, just like, I don't know what the hell, what I am like, but I just want to be me, you
Right.
know. I don't know where I fit in on this whole butch femme thing. Like, I just want to be accepted and loved just for me. I I was like, okay, I got so excited. I was like, okay, this, great. But then I find out through some of my close friends that she was being kind of using me as kind of like in being like a performative ally so she could look good. Like, oh, that she's a wonderful trans ally. And I was like going to be by her side saying, look, I'm dating it. I'm one of the good, good, good lesbians out there. I'm dating a trans woman. But I just felt so, I was like, you really didn't care about me. You really weren't interested
Wow.
in it's all just about you. And I was like, that hurt even more than just a flat out rejection, because I just was like, I thought you were legitimately interested in me. And so for the longest, I did identify as a lesbian for a while. And even I did date a year ago a trans man. I was, struggling with that because, of the whole issue, because I know with some in the trans masculine community, there's issues about trans men and lesbian identifying people who are dating. And at that time, like, I was good friend. At that time, it was like my good friend who's now my boyfriend. I kind of went to him. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, there's this trans guy that I really like, but I've never dated any masculine identifying person. Like, the closest thing to like masculine I've ever dated was butch woman. Like, what am I supposed to do? And he just said, just ask him. That's all you can do. And so it wasn't an issue, but I think for me, like, from those experiences, like, because of the situation with the safety issue and with the murder of trans women, and a lot of these murders, particularly of trans women of color, are done in a dating context with straight cisgender men. Even though I'm attracted to, I'm pretty much pansexual. I kind of like have a wall, and I'm extremely hesitant, a very high wall when it comes to cisgender men, because if my fear for my physical safety is so high that it interferes with even my attraction.
Right.
Yeah, that's where it's like comes from. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Because now I'm like kind of canceling that out. But then after my experiences with my ex-friend from in Michigan, I'm kind of like, I'm like at the point of like, I don't know if you've heard of the term T for T or trans for trans. And this is not like a kind of like, I am at the point of like, for the foreseeable future, I'm only dating those who are trans and non-binary, because I don't have those issues. Like, I don't have to worry about my physical safety. Like with Noah, I don't have to worry about, if I'm with a trans woman, about having to be lectured. And that's something that I was subjected to by this woman. Like condescended to me and lectured to me about womanhood, and like tried to tell me like how I was socialized. So I was like, you don't know how I was socialized.
Right.
You won't listen and get to know me. You just assume all this stuff. And it's just like, for me, it's like, when what I need in a partner is like, I want a partner that I can like trust, with my life, but also with my heart. And like, I shouldn't have to psychoeducate my partner.
Right.
On what being trans is like. And if that means only being with trans and non-binary people for the foreseeable future until I can see some significant changes, like I've, had to put up that wall even for cis women, because I'm just like mentally and emotionally exhausted from all of it, because my whole thing is like, I really wish that the lesbian community would understand that everything isn't a black and white issue. Like, that they would listen, understand what it's like for trans women. Like, I even listened to this same woman tell me that, she's like, she doesn't want to have to, quote unquote, suck dick. And I'm like, it's like, first off, we were talking about us dating. It's like, when did I ever bring that up? But it's like already assumed that trans women, because we were born with a penis, that our sexuality is the same as a cisgender straight man. It isn't.
Right, right.
Hormones have changed everything,
Mm-hmm.
and each individual, like a lot of trans women, have like real bad bottom dysphoria,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we have this like blanket assumption that about our sexuality and what we desire
Mm-hmm.
as a
Mm-hmm.
whole is just it's wrong because we're each individual unique. Like we all have our individual
Right.
unique wants and needs,
Mm-hmm.
um and that's just from my experiences, kind of like in the dealing with being in queer women spaces. Like, and I've heard stories about gay trans men.
Mm-hmm.
They've
Mm-hmm.
had similar experiences. I cannot, and I can't pretend to speak for trans men who are in like gay male spaces.
Right, right.
I can only talk about my experiences with like the lesbian and queer woman spaces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just want to say, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing so much and so allowing yourself to be so vulnerable, because I know this is a vulnerable thing to do. And I really appreciate that. And I just want to say I'm so sorry that you know like that woman who invalidated your experience about being abused as a child. That was just such a wrong thing. That was just hurtful, and
Yeah.
I recognize that. And yeah, I am very, very sorry. And yeah, God, that's really awful. And I actually if I can take a seconds to talk about my experience. Actually, my experience of being identifying as lesbian for 20 years is that lot of my struggles during that time actually really came from like very similar thing that you just mentioned, which is I always talk about my physique because it's kind of important to me. I'm 5'2", and I'm pretty petite. Yeah, so um, when I came out as lesbian when I was 29 after my marriage and after having a child. And um, I just wanted to, I mean, like you, I just wanted to be myself. I just wanted to be loved as me. But then I kind of got caught in this like butch femme dynamics, right? And because of my physique, I tend to be seen as femme, even though that's not the categorization that I really wanted to be, in. But anyway, yeah, people really expected me to be, a femme. And a lot of power plays, as come with that definition, because femmes are expected to be in certain way by butch women. And at the same time, you know um not like I try to be butch, but um I mean, okay, so let's face it, since I'm trans man, my identity is as such. But I have been told that I am not butch enough too. So yeah, being caught in that world really it really did hurt me, and also kind of like made me sick of just trying to date, because it's like, well, what's the point? It's like I don't want to pretend to be someone. I can't be like, I can't be put into a category because and expected to act as a certain act a certain way, because like I can't do that. I'm just me. So yeah, I can relate to what you were saying. um and I think so butch femme thing, because I've associated with a lot of like butches and femmes in my lifetime. I mean, I know, I guess, as a culture, as a power play, they do enjoy that. So, I'm not trying to take away what they enjoy, but I guess, I just have to say that, um, certainly not for everyone. And I think in a way, some lesbians really, um, what should I say? I mean, really like play into this like cis um social stereotype of each gender. So yeah, I don't know, but um before we started this program though, you really touched on very important thing that, so like, we say LGBTQIA plus, and we try to present ourselves as this unified group, which makes sense politically, because like if there are more of us, we are stronger and all that. But then again, like, we do have to face that there is a division amongst us, and there are like really things that we are not openly talking about, which should be addressed if we really gonna unite as a single group, I guess. So
Yeah, I think kind of like uh, want to recall this incident. So I innocently joined a Facebook group that was like for people. I didn't realize it was like Butch Femme Society. The description of the group wasn't very clear, but I was just like, "Hey, let me in." So I don't know if anyone the admins see it like I'll still be in the group, but I'll take the risk anyway. So one of them presented this article about it was kind of like very accusatory. It was very accusatory towards basically trans men and the non-binary community for supposedly causing what they called butch flight.
hmm,
And a lot of turfs are basically the accusation is that the trans agenda,
mm-hmm.
which is just like the mysterious gay agenda that we're still trying to figure out what that even is.
Right, right, right.
But we're trying to erase the butch community by pressuring butch women into becoming trans men or non-binary.
That's absurd.
Yeah, like
Wow,
I am
okay.
just like, and this it was written by this like butch woman, and she says like I have dysphoria, but I'm not gonna go I'm not gonna go. Her words, chop my boobs off and grow a beard. I'm happy with being a masculine of center woman.
Well,
But
good. I mean, what?
yeah, but I was like, good for
Who is
you,
trying to
good for
change it? Okay,
you.
sorry. Go ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
But I challenged that, and I was like, said, hey, um, I challenged some of the transphobia in it,
Mm,
and they just totally dismissed it. They were like, this is a butch femme society. We don't talk about transgender. We don't talk about quote unquote transgenders here. And I'm just like, okay, whoa.
hmm,
Yeah, I'm like, and that's why it's just like, I have a friend actually in Southern California. She's part of the leather community, and I won't mention her name just for her privacy sake. But
right, right.
um, she identifies as a butch lesbian,
Mm,
and she told me of a story where she was at a lesbian kind of like leather kink play party where there was there was going to be nudity allowed.
mm, mm,
So she was just like, okay, yeah, I'm allowed in the space, everything.
mm,
She was approached and told that because she was more masculine of center and had a penis,
mm,
that people were going to be uncomfortable with her being looking masculine because
Huh.
it would mean like, oh, that there's a man there. And I'm just like, but they said, you know what you can do? You could, go put on some makeup, at least. I'm just like,
Oh
are we
God.
telling, assigned female at birth butch woman to go put on some makeup so people can feel comfortable being naked around them? Like, this
Wow.
is like the double standard that trans women have to face. It's like, oh, we want you to butch up. Well,
Hmm.
we do. We're either, oh, we're trying to get, femme lesbians to sleep with us, or we're told, oh, you're making people uncomfortable because you look too manly. All from the same people that claim to love their masculine of center,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
folk.
Right.
And
Yeah.
some of these, and yes, this is going to be a bit controversial to some viewers or listeners. There are some lesbians who put butch women, trans men, and trans and non-binary, as long as they're like more like trans masculine, all in the same category with no differentiation whatsoever. Like I am dating a trans man. I have dated a butch lesbian.
Mm.
There is a huge difference. Huge difference. Like, I am sorry if you cannot differentiate
Mm.
between a trans man and a butch woman.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds mean and like, but I'm being incredibly direct. You're either incredibly stupid
Mm-hmm.
or you're very uncaring and you're only fetishizing both butch women and trans men.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
just being blunt and honest.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. I mean, yeah, I'm just posting this on Amberly's comment. We have to be loud and proud about not only supporting our gorgeous trans community, we need to be open and vocal about amazing experiences with trans partners. Well, thank you. It's a great comment. And something crossed my mind. I mean, okay, so first of all, oh my god, I just have to interject because it's just such bullshit that I think, okay, who can, if you're butch, come on, you're butch. I mean, who is trying to change you and if who can? I mean, if you don't want to, right? I mean, that's a bullshit. That's like straight people saying that if we educate our children about, LGBTQ people, they're gonna turn into a LGBTQ person or whatever. That's a bullshit. First, and second of all, okay, I just want to quickly share about a friend of mine. And again, like you, I'm not gonna disclose her name, but she's someone that dear friend of mine. I've known her for years, for about 20 years. We met in the lesbian community down in LA, and so she has a body dysphoria, so she's been talking about actually having a top surgery for years and years. But I mean, she doesn't identify herself as trans man. She's lesbian, and that's the identity that that's very important to her. So there's this kind of fear, that she actually asked me one day because she was talking about wanting to have a top surgery, and she said, "Well, but if I had that done, can I still call myself lesbian?" And I'm like, "Well, you just call yourself whatever the fuck you want." It's like, who is stopping you? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Everyone's different, right? Everyone's different. Don't use like what you look like, what your body is shaped like, or what you want to do with your body. Don't use that as an ammunition to discredit or invalidate someone. That's not cool, you know. Anyhow, yeah. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think, and that's the whole thing. Like, and that's like a whole other like topic. I mean, there is like barriers to people who don't strictly identify as like trans men, particularly for I know with like non-binary people who are trying to get top surgery and even hysterectomies.
Mm,
There's a lot of roadblocks because barriers to even accessing because they are not strictly like binary trans male.
right, right.
And it's like that's something that needs to be addressed, as well with like, access to trans healthcare is that
Mm,
I would even say like, there are women have had, top surgery for like health reasons, like, for like breast cancer.
mm,
And you can still identify as a woman, like if they're for, yeah, there are women, have had, had to have top surgeries for whatever, whatever reason,
mm,
and
mm,
it's, yeah, I would be perfectly okay with that. I think and this is just from talking with some trans men, and I'm not saying that all trans men that this is the case.
mm,
But I know that there are some trans men who feel that there are some in the lesbian community who treat them like they're not really men, but they're, I call it like diet men,
what? Sorry.
like diet caffeine free or whatever. But it's like,
Oh, wow.
um, and it's like I am like, it's like, yeah, I understand. I mean, like the part of the other thing about sexuality is just the idea of like that we trans people have to face is like fetishization.
Mm, mm,
And well, I'll say non-consensual fetish, and that's I can't even get that out. Fetishization.
mm, mm,
Um, and what that basically means is that when we are just reduced to for trans women, and I think a lot of this is within kind of like the mainstream porn industry,
yeah,
the whole image of the quote unquote she male or the chick with a dick, that's like very popular for straight cis men porn.
right, right.
Like as much of the transphobia, and the whole straight male genital preference, like I call hypocrisy on that because I'm like the number one consumer of so-called trans or so-called she-male porn are
Mm,
straight cis men.
mm, mm,
Like
mm,
they they actually did a research study and it was like the top search for non-heterosexual pornography is trans porn and trans female porn.
mm, mm,
And it's very skewed. It's where very unrealistic. Um, just kind of like how lesbian porn that's for geared towards straight cis men are just like
right.
two femme women that, and I mean it's just like be realistic, if we're gonna have like actual lesbian porn, be realistic,
Mm, mm, yeah,
um
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so damaging too, because it's like it's kind of like, they are okay about it's not even transgender people, but they are okay with the idea of um people having a sort of like a different combination of genitals, whatever. As long as we are not people, right? We are just
yeah,
this sort of imaginary or this sort of toy that they can play with,
yeah. Well, I've
Um,
always asked like lesbians who say that they also are deeply infatuated with trans men, but they are strictly want someone with a vagina. I was like, okay, what would happen? You have fallen in love. So it started out with your partner, who then comes out to you as a trans man, and you stay with them. But then later in the relationship, like years later, they're like, I have bottomed real bad bottom dysphoria, and I want phalloplasty.
Hmm.
Are you going to like divorce that man? Like I've no, and I've literally I've had that question to lesbians who do that, and I've never gotten like an answer. I'm
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
would you walk away from someone that you claimed that you were in love with, and they
Hmm.
were in love
Hmm.
with you,
Right.
but because they have bottom dysphoria and want and strongly desire to have a penis,
Hmm. Hmm.
like, will you see them as more than just the genitals? And
Right.
I think that's I know like the pansexual, like the term is like hearts not parts. I think for me, like I kind of see gender as kind of like there can be a gendered heart. Like for me,
Hmm.
I have a female heart. I have a female to get like kind of like metaphysical, like a female soul.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and like for my partner who is a trans guy, like yes, I'm very attracted. He's very handsome and everything. But I'm attracted to his male heart, his male inner being, like
Hmm.
person.
Hmm. Hmm.
And for me, I kind of see gender in a little bit more of a holistic term rather than just the outer physical part, if that makes
Hmm.
any sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it totally does. Because for one, okay, I hate to say this because now it brings more controversy when I say this, but okay, so first of all, and we have 2 minutes, but gender
Oh,
is like social construct, right? So
yeah,
I mean, when we are talking about bodies, we are not even actually talking about gender, really. It's
yeah,
yeah. So that's one, and I totally agree with you. I think gender is, to me, again, something more spiritual, something more holistic. If I may borrow your word. Okay, so God, Sarah, I feel like this had to be 2 hour show. I have to invite you back. I mean,
wow,
I say this to everyone, but I mean, I really mean this because okay, so because we wanted to talk about this too. So Supreme Court striking down Roe v. and Wade, and we were actually talking about before the show that trans community actually is and can be the biggest ally to women's rights because the attack on women's body is attack on our bodies. So we have to be really loud about this. I think as a community we have to support women's rights. We have to like fight this, and I don't know like what kind of fight we can launch, but this is time to get loud, really.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes,
All right. So Sarah, I know it's like we have 1 minute, but we can kind of go over. So actually, every week I give my guest time to amplify something. If he, she, they want to amplify maybe like some issue, some campaign that they care about that they want people to know. Yeah. So this is your time
yeah.
to talk about.
Okay, so I know on your I am a co-host and or co-founder of with my partner Noah of a network called the Tran Collaborative. We are going to be starting a podcast that's going to start June 2nd. Um, if you can, if you're on Facebook, you can either get a hold of me, look me up on Facebook. There's Sarah Yael Dunn, or um, look up uh, look up my um, look up Trend Collaborative, and we're trying to basically do what you're doing on this show. However, um, we, we gotta continue this. We gotta continue this fight. And we gotta have a continue this conversation. So it's like, um, I really encourage people to get ready in the future. There's going to be a new podcast out called Trans Collaborative, and that I'm helping be as a panelist and co-founder. So I just wanted to bump that in the last remaining time.
Great, great, great. Yeah. And I'm really excited about, Noah and Yoav and other people's venture Trang collaborative, because I feel like we need multiple outlets. So I started this show, but this show can't be the only show. I just want people to just like, everywhere, people everywhere to start doing things, because we need that. Locally, virtually, we need to, as I said, we need to get louder. So but I mean, like, so one person to for each one of us to get louder, but little voice, if we have a many bunch of little voices, that becomes a huge voice. So I need, we need more people, more trans non-binary folks to come out, and not like come out as coming out, but to voice, to talk about their stories. We really need you. So thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and yeah, please like and subscribe and spread the word. This show is archived, so yeah, go to YouTube, Covers Media. Thank you so much, and see you next week.